We're back to make 2024 awesome. Last video, I gave you 3 hacks. Now we're going to build on that with 3 more. So this is hacks 4 to 6. And this time we're going to focus more on like the environment that you have in and around you and how that can affect you achieving your goals. Now, the first problem I see when it comes to our time, the time available that we have to actually achieve things, is how much our mobile phone can get in the way. Now, this lives in our pocket and vies for our attention all the time. And statistically, the average time someone spends on their phone every day is 3.5 hours. And statistically, that 3.5 hours, 1.5 is spent on social media. Now, I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but if we're sitting here saying I don't have enough time or don't have enough focus or I keep getting distracted with my goals, perhaps social media is the problem. Because social media is something that we can easily pass a lot of time on just scrolling. Social media is also something that influences our decisions. So if you are following a load of fitness people online, for example, and some are doing CrossFit and some are doing running and some are doing this, and you find it all inspiring, then you're constantly kind of slightly wavering your attention around what your goal actually is. Like if you really want to build muscle, but you're starting to veer off a little bit and do maybe like a bit too much running or whatever, like that's fine. But if you're then a little bit frustrated that you're not achieving your muscle building goal or whatever goal that might be because the lines have started to be blurred and you're doing other things, then we have to question kind of why that is. And the reason why I want you to have kind of a bit more strictness around the phone use is because if we want to continue to elevate ourselves, elevate the way that we perform, we've got to be extremely intentional about what we do in our lives. Again, I'm not saying social media is a bad thing, but we could probably say to ourselves that there's a good few half an hour pocket here and there throughout our week where we're like, yeah, I just sat on social media, procrastinated, I did nothing. And it's like, what could we have been doing with that time? Could we have been reading, chatting to a friend, doing something creative, planning our food, reviewing our goals, things that are actually going to lead us towards the outcomes that we committed to at the beginning of this process. So for me, becoming more awesome means we have to be intentional with our time and make sure that we are having this kind of almost review process of like, oh, am I happy with what I've just been doing for the last half an hour? Could I have been doing this thing or this behavior that is leading me closer towards my goal? Hack number 5, that was 4, this is 5, is building on what I've just mentioned with the phone, and that's creating space in our lives for chaos. Now, when you want to achieve your goal, we can be so head down that we're not seeing what might be coming. And I know this from being someone that runs a business and someone that has 2 young kids. I need to create space for when chaos comes in. If I'm trying to achieve too much, do too much, and I'm not being intentional with my time, then when chaos comes in, I get overwhelmed, I get stressed, I think, how am I going to do all of this stuff? Because I haven't created that flexibility. And also, in the modern world, we can very easily overcommit ourselves or simply have our brain doing stuff all the time. And that's another problem with the mobile phone. We can very easily fill our brain with things that we're doing all the time. Now, I'm not saying being on your phone is stressful, but if you're on social media, watching things, doing whatever on your phone, you're making your brain work. And sometimes we don't see the build-up of what that then affects. Over the course of a week, if our brain's constantly taking information, problem solving, digesting things, having to think about how it feels emotionally given, what we're seeing, then we're not creating space to just be, have fun, play. And quite often, as high performance people, we are pushing ourselves in many areas of our lives. So if we're making our brain work 24/7 and doing all of these things, sometimes there isn't enough space in the day for chaos, downtime, play, and genuine rest and recovery. And a real pattern that I see a lot in high performance people is micro burnout, where we're pushing really hard for a couple of weeks and then we catch a bug, get fatigued, need a week off, need a weekend where we're just like, whoa. And I've been there many a time. So I want you to create enough space so that you can put as much energy, quality, intentional energy into the behaviors and the actions that get the results you want, with enough space to decompress and rest and relax. And I reckon you'll enjoy life a lot more as a result. The hack number 6 is about triggering behaviors, environments, situations, people, things. So when I got you to do the goal setting process at the beginning of this, I got you to talk about roadblocks, and this is building on from that. So if you know, for example, that you are not great around certain foods, let's just say you love sweets, and sometimes you buy sweets in the house and you keep them in the cupboard, but you're really trying to work hard towards maybe a weight loss goal or just keeping your body composition in check, and actually not having those foods in the house is a lot better for you to achieve those goals because they are a trigger. You're not very good at controlling yourself around them. Well, perhaps you need to make a new commitment and a new rule. I'm not going to buy those sweets, and I'm only going to have them when I go out to the cinema or whatever, and I have kind of like a planned enjoyment of them. Or it might be that when you meet up with certain friends, you always go to like the same Chinese buffet with these friends and you always overeat. Again, what I want to bring your awareness to is all these pockets of environments that might not be great. They might trigger something, a cascade of behaviors, because in high performance people, there can be kind of like a guilt reflex as well. And we don't want this. So there's a triggering environment. We do something non-optimal, then we get guilty, then we overcompensate by training extra hard or pushing ourselves or berating ourselves, and then we get inside our head, and that's not healthy. We're constantly yinging and yanging from being in a good place. So the more that we can try and control certain aspects of our environment so we're not triggered and go off piste and end up in a place where we don't want to be and then feel bad about it, is going to lead to a better outcome. And we're going to feel happier about the journey because we're not constantly fighting between things that are pulling us off course. So be strong, be brave, start to put things in place to protect yourself from certain people or situations or environments. And I think you'll see a better upward trajectory towards your goals. Now, if any of these things you want help with, send us a message on direct message on our Instagram or wherever, or you can message me personally on social media. Otherwise, hope you've enjoyed hacks 4 to 6. Join me next week for hacks 7 to 9.